In the heart of Tehran, inside the crowded abuser mosque, a simple tape recorder sat on the table. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei leaned in to answer a question, his voice steady with the quiet strength of a man who had already survived years of struggle. Then came a sharp, unnatural whistle. The device exploded in a flash of fire and shrapnel. Pain tore through his body. His right arm went limp, nerves destroyed forever. His voice would never sound the same again. Blood stained the sacred space as aides rushed him to safety. Many believed this was the end for the rising cleric. But from that devastating moment in 1981, a survivor emerged who would guide Iran through decades of triumph, tragedy, and transformation, until destiny struck once more in the skies above his homeland. Imagine the ancient city of Mashhad in 1939, where golden domes rise toward the sky and the call to prayer echoes through narrow streets. This is where young Ali Khamenei first opened his eyes to a world rich in faith and history. Born into a modest Azeri clerical family, he grew up surrounded by the profound spirituality of Shia Islam. His father, a dedicated scholar who had studied in the holy city of Najaf, taught him the importance of knowledge, discipline, and moral courage. Life was simple: meals of bread, dates, and raisins, a home filled more with books and prayers than material comforts. Yet the family earned deep respect in their community. His mother shared stories of Persian kings, poets, and enduring cultural pride, planting seeds of identity that would shape him forever. Iran in those days stood proud as one of the few nations in the region untouched by direct colonization. Under the Pahlavi rulers, it pursued bold modernization, new roads, schools, and Western alliances. But beneath the surface, ancient traditions clashed with rapid change. Religious schools like those in Mashhad preserved conservative values, while the Shah's government watched warily for any challenge to its authority. As a boy, Ali absorbed both worlds. He studied diligently under respected teachers, crossing briefly into Iraq's sacred Najaf before returning to Iran's holy city of Qom. There, in 1957, he met the man who would change everything, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Khomeini's sharp critiques of corruption and foreign influence resonated deeply. What began as theological lessons evolved into a profound awakening about justice, independence, and the soul of the nation. The 1960s tested this growing conviction. The Shah launched ambitious reforms that threatened traditional land ownership and clerical influence. Protests erupted, lives were lost, and Khomeini was arrested then exiled. Khamenei chose to stay in Iran, caring for his aging father while continuing his quiet work. He translated powerful writings calling for renewal across the Muslim world. He traveled, preached, and organized, facing repeated arrests by the Shah's feared secret police. Solitary confinement in dark cells tested his spirit, but each time he emerged more determined. In 1964 he married, building a private world of stability for his wife and growing family, 4 sons and 2 daughters, while the nation edged closer to upheaval. By the late 1970s, Iran trembled with unrest. Economic woes, heavy-handed repression, and a sense of lost identity fueled massive demonstrations. A horrific fire at a cinema in Abadan became a rallying cry, blamed on the regime and igniting fury across the land. Millions took to the streets. The Shah fled in January 1979. Khomeini returned in triumph. The old order collapsed in days of joy and chaos. Yet the revolution was not simple. Different visions competed, some seeking democracy, others deeper religious guidance. Khamenei stepped into the fray as a steady organizer. He helped form new institutions, supported purges of old loyalties, and worked to protect the fragile Islamic Republic from internal and external threats. Danger never stayed far away. Counter-revolutionary forces struck hard. In June 1981, that mosque bombing nearly took Khamenei's life. The attackers left a message claiming responsibility. He survived, but carried permanent scars, a paralyzed arm and a softer voice that became his signature in later addresses. Undeterred, he rose quickly. Amid political chaos, he won the presidency in a landslide. His years in that role coincided with the brutal Iran-Iraq War. Saddam Hussein's invasion brought years of horrific fighting, chemical attacks, and unimaginable loss. Khamenei visited the front lines, witnessing courage and suffering firsthand. He pushed for peace where possible, yet the conflict dragged on, forging a generation of resilience. When Khomeini passed in 1989, the nation faced uncertainty. Khamenei, chosen through consensus despite debates over qualifications, became supreme leader. At 50, he inherited a war-weary country navigating a changing world. The Soviet Union had collapsed. New neighbors emerged. Global powers shifted alliances. He strengthened the Revolutionary Guards as a loyal guardian of the revolution, protecting borders, supporting the economy, and upholding ideals. He built connections with resistance movements across the region, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and support for Palestinian groups. These ties created influence that extended far beyond Iran's borders, shaping conflicts for years. Iran's nuclear program became both a point of pride and painful isolation. Rooted in earlier decades, it advanced under Khamenei as a symbol of scientific independence and energy security. He insisted its purpose remained peaceful, yet sanctions tightened, testing the economy despite oil wealth and a large, young population. Growth came in bursts, reconstruction after war, periods of strong expansion, but challenges persisted. Unemployment weighed on families. Youth hungered for opportunity and openness. Brief reform eras under leaders like Khatami brought hope for dialogue and freedoms, yet protests in 1999 and the powerful Green Movement of 2009 revealed deep frustrations. Authorities responded firmly, prioritizing stability. Social guidelines were enforced. Surveillance and security tightened. Khamenei navigated these tensions by promoting education, self-reliance, and strategic partnerships with nations like Russia and China. Through it all, his personal life remained private and austere. Family stayed out of the spotlight. He read widely, even Western literature, seeking to understand the world while staying rooted in faith. Brothers and relatives sometimes differed in views, highlighting the human complexity behind the leadership. Regional storms tested him constantly: Yemen's civil war, proxy battles, and endless sanctions. By the early 2020s, pressures mounted. Hamas actions in 2023 triggered cascading responses. Israeli operations weakened allied networks. Then, in February 2026, everything changed. Amid escalating conflict, joint strikes targeted Iranian leadership. On February 28, an airstrike hit Khamenei's compound in Tehran. The 86-year-old leader was killed. State media confirmed the news the next day. The survivor of 1981 had met his end in a new era of precision warfare. His death sent shockwaves through Iran and beyond. In July 2026, the nation poured out its grief in an extraordinary farewell. Millions lined the streets as the preserved body processed from Tehran's Grand Mosque to Qom, then across borders to the sacred shrines of Najaf and Karbala in Iraq. Crowds reached into the tens of millions overall, an outpouring of emotion, unity, and remembrance. The journey ended in Mashhad, where he was laid to rest at the revered Imam Reza's shrine near family graves. The ceremonies, marked by dignity and massive participation, projected strength and continuity even in loss. Security remained high amid reports of prevented threats. It was a final chapter worthy of the man who had shaped modern Iran. Khamenei's life reads like an epic of endurance. From humble beginnings in Mashhad to the heights of power, he navigated revolution, war, sanctions, and betrayal. He strengthened institutions that allowed Iran to stand independently on the world stage. He defended a vision of sovereignty and faith against what he saw as existential threats. Supporters remember his quiet determination and long-term strategic patience. Critics point to economic hardships, restrictions on dissent, and policies that invited isolation and conflict. His 37 years as supreme leader left an indelible mark, advancing defense capabilities, scientific progress, and regional influence, yet leaving questions about prosperity and openness for future generations. As the dust settles, Iran stands at a crossroads. The systems he helped build will face new tests. Will they evolve with the aspirations of a young population? Or will they hold firm to the principles that guided him? His story reminds us how one life, forged in fire and faith, can influence the destiny of millions. It speaks of survival against the odds, the weight of leadership, and the enduring power of conviction. In the end, The boy from Mashhad who survived an assassin's bomb and rose to guide a revolution left behind a complex legacy of resilience and resolve. What does his journey mean for us today? How will history remember the man who outlasted so many storms only to fall in one final strike? And what can we learn from a life dedicated to what he believed was his nation's soul? Let your thoughts flow in the comments. Your voice helps this story live on.